Welcome back to my hardcore nuzlocke of Pokémon Emerald using only single stage Pokémon. In the last episode, we made it to Lava Ridge Town and took on Flannery. The majority of the fight was super clean, that is until we lost our first team member of the run in Torkoal. I made a lot of stupid mistakes while taking down Flannery's ace, and I paid the price for it. Determined to not let that bring me down, it's time to go up against Norman in the 5th gym. Let's do this. Already at gym number 5. Feels like we made it here pretty quick though. Just another friendly reminder before the team review, these trainers in here suck. I would avoid the left and the middle sections of the gym in my opinion at all costs, as those rooms include a trainer with Swords Dance Zangoose and another with a Dire Hit boosted Vigoroth with Slash. Seriously, I've actually wiped to that Zangoose before, and it just catches you completely off guard. So I went to the right side without any issues, right? I mean, come on, this dude is using a Slack Off. It's such a joke. Well, I wasn't exactly expecting to have a coronary so early into the next episode, but here we are. Just give me a couple minutes to throw up a little, and then we'll get right into the team review. It's sad not to see Torkoal in the party anymore, but luckily our loss won't impact this fight all that much, as the rest of my team is very well equipped to deal with Norman. Leading the charge is Solrock this time, as the only thing Spinda can really do against it is use Teeter Dance and pray that my Solrock kills itself in confusion. I have a Person Berry equipped to mitigate that bit and hopefully keep Solrock a bit healthier. Once Spinda goes down, I'm expecting Vigoroth to come out next and go for a super effective Feint Attack. I'll then switch into Illumise, who's actually got some pretty decent special bulk to take that hit, and the plan from there is to use Charm a few times to weaken Vigoroth as much as possible. I just have to hope he doesn't get lucky with slash crits. From there, I'll switch into Cast Form to give us our daily forecast and smack Norman's monkey around with Weather Paw. It should be a very easy 2-hit KO. When Linoone finally comes out, I'll switch into Sableye to completely wall it. Linoone is normally a very dangerous threat to deal with as it is super fast and comes packed with Belly Drum, but luckily Sableye doesn't care about normal type moves, so Linoone is essentially a free fight. Sableye will also be dealing with Norman's ace as well, as usual. It's Pokemon like Sableye that make what are normally extremely tough fights look super easy. And finally in the back we've got Minun and Seviper, who are going to be backups for Vigoroth primarily if Cast Form gets crit or something like that. Minun does have some pretty awesome backup utility as well if I need it. I can't believe we're already halfway through the game. It's been a fun ride so far, and I'm really looking forward to a bunch of new encounters after this. But first, we've got some business to take care of. Let's do this. I send out Solrock to take on Norman's Spinda. While I was pretty confident that Rock Throw would kill in 2 hits, I wasn't entirely sure. Luckily, I don't have to think about it anymore because the crit lands and Spinda goes down immediately. Great start. Vigoroth comes out next, and I know that a crit from Feint Attack won't be enough to take Solrock out, so I stay in to get some extra Rock Throw damage in. This actually works out perfectly, because now Cast Form's Weather Ball will only have to land once instead of twice, which means one less turn that I have to avoid a crit. The Feint Attack doesn't do much, and now I switch into Illumise to try and lower Vigoroth's attack a little bit. After all the close calls and misplays I've had recently, I don't want to take any chances if I can help it. Vigoroth's Feint Attack doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, and I have Illumise throw out a Charm. Facade does deal a bit more now, and I'm a little worried about the crit. This should be plenty enough for Cast Form to come in and finish the job anyway. So Cast Form comes in and sets up the Rain Dance. It didn't really matter what condition I used here, as Weather Ball was going to deal the same amount of damage regardless. Vigoroth throws out a Slash on his second attack, and no crit. Very nice. And Cast Form is still very healthy. And since he's still so healthy, I keep him in against Linoone. Linoone can't kill with this much health still left on Cast Form, so I can definitely get at least one hit in. Also, how the hell am I faster than Linoone? That's actually kinda crazy. It must have had a nature that it lowers speed. Castform isn't slow, but he's not faster than Linoon. Whatever. Doesn't make any sense, but hey, it worked out for us. And fortunately, Linoon also goes for the belly drum, and it of course fails after the weather ball landed. And now that I know we're faster, I just simply toss out another weather ball to finish the job. Now, all that's left is Norman's ace, Slacking, and I've got the perfect answer. I switch into Sableye as Slacking goes for a useless counter. I throw out Fake Out because I'm stupid, but luckily I can afford to make a ton of mistakes here, as there isn't much that Slacking can do against Sableye. Even if and when I use Detect at the wrong time, a Feint Attack is just not going to be all that threatening. The Toxic lands on the first try, and now we stall. This is a pretty typical setup, and I'm sure you guys have seen this plenty of times, so I'll skip ahead a bit. Norman would go on to use both of his Hyper Potions, and he did sneak in a single Feint Attack because I forgot that Slacking will actually loaf around after getting healed, which essentially gives me multiple free turns to let Toxic do its thing. But it didn't matter, and Dad's career is officially over. Does that mean I get to take over the gym now? I guess not. Oh well, it was worth a try. On to getting the HM for Surf, and I hate when Pokemon games do this to the music. You do not need to change the music to something completely random and just flat out worse for 5 seconds as we walk all of 12 steps to the left. Just keep playing the music. Petalburg's theme is great. All the themes in this game are great. Now that we have the HM for Surf, we're going to need to catch an HM slave to help us traverse the newly opened water routes, as no one on the team now can learn it, and I don't think I'll be getting an encounter that can learn it until after Badge 7, which actually sucks now that I think about it, because that would have been really helpful for Tate and Liza. With our token Goldeen now on the team, it's time to start trekking towards Winona and Fortree City. I have boxed Illumise for now, as he won't be super necessary for any of the fights coming up. Although, I might change my mind if I think I need a charm user for our rival's Marshtop on Route 119. While we travel the long road to Fortree, I think this is a good time to talk about all the different routes, areas, and items that make up this section of the mid-game. Let's start with the optional water route up north. Route 115. For me, this route is typically not worth it in most of my runs, specifically because of how scary the random trainers are here. You've got a pretty bulky Machoke and Hariyama on this route, both of which have counter. The Dodrio and Kadabra that some of the other trainers have should also not be slept on either. The items that you get on this route are just very niche, I would say. I don't really know exactly how I feel about Focus Punch. I haven't really used it enough to know if it's good in a Nuzlocke setting or not. Let me know in the comments if you found success with it, outside of combining it with Spore Breloom, of course. I will say though that this route does give you a 50% chance of obtaining Tailo or Swellow if you happen to miss that encounter on one of the early routes. In that case, it may very well be worth it. Other than that, I think this may be the only route in the game that provides Kelpsy Berries, which are essential if you plan on using Milotic in your run. But again, that's a super niche scenario that's not going to be very common. Heading back south through Rustboro and Petalburg Woods, it's time to travel along routes 105, 106, 107, 108, and 109. And for so many routes, there's not too much to see here in general. Even though this supposedly provides the player with several new encounters, there are only 3 Pokemon that you can actually catch between all of them, and you've most likely already caught each one by that point anyway. I guess that's the unfortunate part of having both Surf and Dive in the same game, and it's probably the reason why Game Freak has never brought the diving mechanic back. You have to have enough water Pokemon to accommodate both environments, but you also can't inflate the Pokedex too much with water types at the same time. That must have been a pretty difficult balance to strike, honestly. Although, a part of me still wishes there was just a little bit more variety with the amount of water you traverse in the later stages of the game. There's not too much to talk about as far as items go either on these routes, just mostly vitamins, heart scales, and some other miscellaneous stuff like that. The 2 biggest upgrades between all of these particular routes has to be Sludge Bomb, which you can get from the man inside Dewford Hall in Dewford Town, and of course the TM for Ice Beam, which can be found by navigating through the abandoned ship on Route 108. The abandoned ship is definitely the highlight of the southwestern water routes. It's pretty fun to explore for the most part, and it's also not too big, so it doesn't feel like a slog to get through. I find the layout to be far more interesting than the SSN, for example, even though it's way smaller. And that concludes our tour of the western water routes. Back in Slateport again, and not much to see here on our return. So I'm gonna head straight to Mauville for the next little side mission. Upon entering Mauville again, I meet up with Watson in the middle of town to pick up a little quest to go investigate New Mauville, which is essentially a bunker at this point beneath the city. This quest is obviously fantastic because you get the TM for Thunderbolt at the end, and that's a really big theme for this section of the game. Surf, Sludge Bomb, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt just one after the other. It's amazing. You can also consider that you'll also probably have enough cash to pick up another incredible TM for the Game Corner as well, just adding to that unbelievable mix. I head over to New Mauville to quickly deal with the generator and obtain a Thunderbolt for our mining. While there's not a whole lot to do in this place, I will say it is a pretty good grinding spot if you're not using the daycare method. Magnemite and Voltorb grant pretty decent experience and are fairly easy to take down depending on what type of Pokemon you have. But that's about the extent of New Mauville's usefulness. There is a Thunderstone in here, but your only target for it is Pikachu, which isn't even a guaranteed encounter in the Safari Zone. The puzzles aren't super interesting either, I guess. Everything about this place is just kind of meh. Thank you very much, sir. And now we can finally head over to Route 118 and begin our expedition of the eastern side of Hoenn. Route 118 is a very tiny route that makes up the beach outside of Mauville, a tiny bit of water, and a patch of grass here and there on the other side. Despite this being one of the smallest routes in the game, there are a few really cool items and features here. The first being the Good Rod as soon as you land on the other side of the pond. This unlocks some really cool new water encounters such as Carvanha and Wailmer. And after you randomly encounter Steven for a little chat, you could pick up your first citrus berries in the region, which always feels nice. Route 118 is also the home of our next encounter, which it's about damn time. It feels like we got Solrock ages ago. And that new encounter is Kecleon. I have completed several Nuzlockes of the Generation 3 games at this point, and I have yet to actually utilize this guy. A very strange Pokemon, Kecleon has one of the most unique abilities in Color Change. Normally it's not very effective if used against a player, but against AI? It's definitely interesting, and I'm definitely going to try him out this time. Kecleon's stats are pretty decent too, although I wish he was made as more of a special attacker than physical, because he gets so many great coverage options if you want them. I'll have to really think about which way I want to commit with him offensively. And with that, this episode is now over. Norman goes down, and we finally unlock the eastern side of the map. Kecleon may have been the first encounter on this side of the region, but there are plenty more to come in the next episode. The team's gonna start to look different very shortly, and I'm looking forward to playing around with our new toys. In the meantime, as usual, please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe for more content like this. I really hope you guys are enjoying the series so far. That's it for me. I'll see you next time.